welcome to a new video. My name is Shruti and today I'm going to be talking about the books that I read in February. It sounds so weird in Feb. Okay. So in the month of Feb, I read 14 books. And isn't that fun? Because like Feb 14th is Valentine's Day. Month of love, and funnily enough, in the month of love I read a lot of books that I really loved. So excellent. In fact, I think most of them are like 4 stars and above. There's only one book that I absolutely detested, but other than that, it was smooth sailing and A1. So I'm very excited to talk to you about those 14 books. But before we begin, we of course have Stats Bitch, who is going to come here and very quickly give you some stats before we get into talking about the book. So on to Stats Bitch. Yes, hello. I have been told to make it quick this month. So she read 14 books, as she said. The total number of pages that she also read was 3989. So like basically 4,000, right? What was really fun this month is that she read 3 non-fiction books, which is great because she usually doesn't read a lot of non-fiction, but 3 non-fiction books and 11 fiction books. Also, out of the 14 books that she read, 9 were from different countries. So 9 different countries. So this includes obviously the US and UK as well as India, but also like Spain and New Zealand and Italy and South Korea and all of that sort of stuff. So that's super exciting. Of course, she read 12 female authors and 2 were male. She reads more female authors. It's fine. It's a known fact. And in terms of the star ratings, now here's where it gets fun, because she had 1 star, but then after that she had 2 3.5 stars, 6 4 stars, 3 4.5 stars and 2 5 stars. So that is quite an epic reading month in the month of love. I know, it was quite the epic reading month. I am so excited to talk to you about these books. So a lot of these books I have spoken about in like reading vlogs, etc. So that I'm going to keep towards the end, but there are some that I have not, so that we're gonna like just begin chronologically. So the first book that I finished reading in Feb, which I actually started in Jan, is Beasts of a Little Land. Why was I going to say Beasts of a Little Land? I feel like Dwight Schrute would have been very excited about that. But anyway, Beasts of a Little Land by Juhea. I don't know. I'm gonna just pop the person's name here. I'm gonna butcher it. Juhea Kim, I don't know. Anyway, but this is a debut novel, and I thought that it was so amazing for a debut novel because it's like the sweeping tale of these people in Korea, and this is set in like from the 1920s to like about the 1970s, 1960s, 1970s, yeah. And we see a bunch of people through the lens during this time, and essentially it's about the time when Japan had occupied Korea. So we get to see people from Korea, we get to see people from Japan, and we basically get to see like what was happening in Korea at this point of time. And it was very educational as well, because there were a lot of these really like high points in like the struggle for independence, etc., that was happening at that point of time that I didn't know of. So that was really interesting. But the story in general is told through the lens of various people, but mostly we are following these 2 girls who sort of grow up to be courtesans, but then they become much more, and the other people like sort of around them. So there's like this other boy who's involved and all of that, and we get to see how they grow up in this land and who they become, and we get to see all of these various people sort of like intersect over the years and like come together, and how their fates are sort of intertwined. So I gave this one a 4 star because I really liked it, and I really liked what the author was trying to do. But since it is a debut novel, there was just a teensy bit missing. I felt like I didn't feel as connected to the characters as I felt I should be. So Still though, I think that it's absolutely amazing. I would definitely recommend, and would really look forward to seeing what the author comes up with next. The next book that I read was Assembly by Natasha Brown, and this, holy shit, blew my socks off, because this is a book that is about 100 and something pages, and it just had so much to say in these 100 and something pages. So like effortlessly. So essentially we're following this girl, this lady, who is going to her boyfriend's house. That's essentially the story. But she is black and her boyfriend is white and is a privileged person, and they have like the sort of like country house or whatever. They're super rich people, and she's going to go to a place that is predominantly very white, and it's not quite a place that like she has been to before, like, you know, like class differences, etc. But this talks about so much, because in this just very simple situation, she spoke about like class, she spoke about race, she spoke about colorism, she spoke about like colonization, she spoke about just so much of stuff. I was absolutely blown away with like how she could put so many amazing thoughts into like this book, and this situation, and make it seem like very seamlessly like put forward in terms of like the thoughts that she's going through and all of the things that she's trying to like put together and stuff. It was just so brilliant. The character herself is also going through something, but like I just thought that it was so well done. I was like constantly highlighting it. I read it in a day, but like I read it through the day and I just wanted to spend more time with it. I was like totally blown away by this book. I feel like this is a book that like you kind of take your time with, because it's just so beautifully written in terms of like the thoughts and like everything that the author sort of has. And it was just, I was like, this is a masterclass in being able to write like short novellas, but be able to like put so much into it, and not in terms of a plot, but just in terms of like thoughts, you know what I mean? I just thought it was absolutely brilliant. I gave it 5 stars. I totally see why there was like this huge buzz when like the Booker long list was gonna come out last year, and like everyone is putting this into the long list like predictions, and I was like, what I mean, I don't know, it's like 100 something pages, what could be so like amazing about it? But I read it now and I totally see it. So yeah, it's super amazing. I really look forward to reading more from Natasha Brown. This was her debut novel. I am like, wow. I would love to read like more long form stuff from her, or even short form, because clearly like she's doing great. So yeah, definitely recommend this book. It's awesome. The next book that I read is a translated one, and that is The Lost Daughter by Elena Ferrante, and this is translated from Italian to English, and there's a lot of buzz about this one right now because it just got made into a movie featuring Olivia Colman and Dakota Johnson, and it was directed by Maggie. And honestly, I read this book because I wanted to watch the movie, but have I watched the movie? I have not. So it's something that I plan to do, but I really like this book. This book was very unsettling and very I don't know, like you don't like the characters. Like the characters aren't bad people, but you get to see the not so great parts of their personality, which like everyone maybe has. Like everyone has these parts of their personality. Like not everyone is like 100% amazing, but the way that Elena Ferrante shows these aspects to a person's personality and like the sort of things that they do, which may seem like irrational to a normal person, but to the other person feels like rational, or like just it's so interesting and so well done. And like just reading about it and seeing those like thought processes, and just like you're just like, what is this person doing? But then you're like, I don't know. I thought that it was really, really interesting, but essentially, I haven't told you the book about. So this is a short book as well, and essentially it's about this old, not old, but like middle-aged professor who goes to a beach town for like a vacation. And at the beach where she normally hangs out, there is another family that is there, and it's like this very loud family. And one of the people in the family is this young mother, and there's this daughter, and the daughter has like this doll that she really loves, and it's just how boundaries get crossed, and like just I don't want to explain more because like for that you should read the book or like watch the movie, but I just thought that it was very, very fascinating. I ended up giving this one a 4 star because I really liked it, and I thought that it was well done, but it also made me very uncomfortable, but I feel like that was supposed to happen. But anyway, I still enjoyed my journey reading this, and I hope to watch the movie soon, so okay, the next one that I read is also a translated one, but this one is an Indian translated book, translated from Malayalam to English, and that is Qabar by KR Meera. Now, KR Meera, I've read a few of her books before, and I think she does a really good job. This one was just a weird one, to be honest, because essentially we are following this lady who is a judge, and the case that is put towards like her whatever court is like this one where there is this burial ground of sorts that is being encroached upon by another organization or whatever that's building something. So someone is petitioning for them to stop because it's like this old burial ground, but there are no papers to show that this is the burial ground or whatever. So I thought that this was going to be like a thing about like Muslim and Hindu and talking about like whose right matters and like all of that sort of stuff. I don't know. I just thought it was going to be like a take on Babri Masjid or something like that. But no, it was not so much about the burial ground as much as it was about the lady and the guy who was petitioning the court, who turns out to be like a sort of magician, illusionist, mind or overtaker or something. And then like they just go on these weird like sort of journeys. She feels like there are butterflies in her head. It was just a weird like situation. So you get to see like this weird magical like realism aspect to this, where there's like magic and stuff like that which happens, but also you get to see more about like this lady and like what she is going through, because she has like a son who's struggling with ADHD, though I don't know how like that was portrayed. Like I don't have ADHD, but I thought that was a little like, I don't know if it's excellent in its portrayal, but it was interesting. So she's struggling with being a single mom to this son, as well as her ex-husband like getting married, as well as her family and her parents going through like a sort of separation where the mother's just like, I'm gonna do my own thing now. But what I really liked about this book was that it spoke about a lot of like interesting topics, about like feminism and like having to like take care of yourself finally, and like society and what it expects of you, and men and the patriarchy and all of that sort of stuff as well. And I just thought that it was really, really interesting. I thought that it was really weird, which is why I gave it a 3.5 stars. But I was like, I see what you did there, sort of. Maybe I understood, maybe I didn't, but like it was definitely interesting what you did there. But so wouldn't necessarily recommend, but it is a short one as well, so like if you want to read it, go for it. And the next book that I read was, what's it called? All About Love by Bell Hooks. And this is a book that I read for my book club, which is Consciousness Raising Book Club. We read a book every 45 days to know more about the world. I will put details about it in the description if you want to join. Next book that we're going to be reading is Republic of Caste. So that's going to be fun. But anyway, moving on, All About Love is like the seminal book by Bell Hooks, and this basically talks about love. What is it? It is all about love, yes. But more in terms of understanding love and what is love. And I really liked the way that like she did this in her initial chapters, where she was like, you need to understand the definition of love and like all of that sort of stuff. And she's clearly done a lot of research, and she quotes a lot of other books and all of that sort of stuff to make you understand like self-love and what does that mean and what is self-esteem and all of that sort of stuff. So I thought that it was really interesting in the way that she put across the first few chapters. Like I had a lot of revelations myself that I discussed in therapy. I thought that was really, really interesting because like it was just a lot of like things that I didn't quite realize about myself that came out in this book, and I feel like it's really good for certain parts. However, certain parts felt very like religion-y and very like Catholic. I don't know. It quoted a lot of scriptures, and I mean, I'm okay with that, but also it was a little weird. Also, there were certain times where I felt like she sort of like contradicted herself towards the end. So I think this is a sort of book that you read and you take from it what you will, and the parts that you don't like, you just sort of like let it go. But it's no 5 on 5. It I gave this like a 4 star essentially, and I liked it a lot for some parts, and I didn't like it for some parts. So yeah, that's basically how I felt about this book. So the next book that I read was a graphic novel called They Call Us Enemy by George Takei. Now, I'm sure you know who George Takei is. If I put his face here, he's very, very familiar. He was in Star Trek and has generally been a face that we sort of know and love. And he is Japanese American, which means that when the World War II happened, there were these Japanese internment camps that took place, which is basically after the Japanese bombed Pearl Harbor. They the Americans just basically said, hey, we're going to take all the Japanese people that live in the US, regardless of whether they are American citizens and were born here, etc., and just put them into like these refugee camps, like these internment camps, essentially. And they had to leave everything behind, like sell their property, all of that sort of stuff, like leave their jobs and all of that, and just go into these internment camps for like years. And it's absolutely nuts that this happened. And I just thought that it was really interesting the way that George Takei spoke about it, because he was a child during that time. So we got like a sort of thing of innocence, but we also got to see like him like grown up and how he sort of like dealt with it and how he was thinking about it like then as well. And obviously like then he became a really famous person, and we got to see like him also going and becoming like part of Star Trek and all of that sort of stuff. But post that, he's done a lot for the Japanese American community, and just talking about all of that sort of stuff was really, really interesting. I just really liked the back and forth between like the past and the present, and like, you know, I thought it was really well done. And I just liked everything that he had to say. I thought that it was really, really interesting, and it was a really good graphic novel. I read another graphic novel a few like last year, which I really, really love, called Displacement by Kiko Hughes, which is also about the Japanese internment camps, which like I just really liked that as well. So I would highly recommend that you read both of these. But yeah, this one I gave a 4.5 star. And then I read another graphic novel by another very famous American man, and that famous American man is John Lewis, and the graphic novel is March Volume 1. I really like this one. In this, we get to follow John Lewis, who is like this really, really famous senator. He passed away in 2020, if I'm not mistaken, but he was like this prominent person during the civil rights movement, and just was like this all-around amazing person. But we get to see like him growing up and what that was like, how he got into this thing of like preaching. He was really into this idea of wanting to preach, but and be part of like the church, etc., but also to preach like social consciousness and like bring in social issues, and how he got into the civil rights movement and all of that sort of stuff. I just thought that this book was really, really well done in terms of like putting all of these things together. However, I felt like since it's just the first book, the first volume, I felt like it was a little like lacked something. Like I obviously need to read the rest of the volumes to find out what happens, but like this one I felt kind of like abruptly finished. So if you do plan to read it, I think just read all three together. I didn't do that, so that's on me. But I give this one a 4 star. I really, really enjoyed it. I thought that it was really well done, and I look forward to reading the rest of the volumes as well to find out what happens, even though I kind of know, but I would like to know it from his perspective. And then I read another short what is up? I mean, did I read a lot of short books this month? Well, it's fine. It was a short month. But yeah, then I read The City of Incident by Annie Zaidi, and Annie Zaidi is this really, really amazing writer. She wrote A Prelude to a Riot, I think in 2020, and I just thought that it's so amazing how she can write such a short book and be able to like make you feel so uneasy. But that's Prelude to a Riot. This one is A City of Incident, and essentially it's a novel in 12 parts. And this is basically about these 12 people in Bombay, and we get to see their perspective on certain things, but they're all sort of interconnected, like all the stories are interconnected. And you get to know more from like about the other story and the other person through like the next story as well. I just thought that it was really interesting and really well done. The thing that I really loved about this book was like how evocative it was, and I feel like evocative is the right word because it really brought to life like the atmosphere and like living in Bombay. Like I just felt like it was so well done. Like there were things where they were talking about like, oh, going by train and like crossing Mahim in like forever and getting that smell. I don't know, like it's a thing that only if you've lived in Bombay and gone by the train do you understand what like they mean by that. But like the Mahim Creek just smelling shit and just having that like thing when you pass it. While I was reading it, I could smell it too. And she covered so many different sort of people in these 12 parts, right? Like so there was like a policeman, a beggar, a lady from a high storied building. I don't know, like it was just a bunch of stuff, and I thought that it was really well done and really interestingly written, and I gave this one a 4 star. I would recommend, but if you are maybe not from Bombay, you may not love it as much as people who are from Bombay or who have lived in Bombay or like lived in Bombay for a longer period of time would love, I think personally. But like maybe people like it, I don't know, but I really liked it because it showed me my city. So alright, so the next 6 books that I have to talk to you about are books that I read for videos. The next 2, however, are for a video that's not out yet. So I will talk to you very briefly about them. But the first book that I read in this video is Hamnet by Maggie or Farrell, and holy shit, it is so good. I absolutely fell in love with it. 5 stars completely. I understand why this book is so well loved. This is a women's prize winner, which I shouldn't be shocked about because women's prize, like I trust them so much. Like I trust the women's prize over the last few years at least. And just like it's amazing. But essentially this book is about Hamnet and his family, especially his mother, Agnes, and his father, who is William Shakespeare. Yeah, the same man who wrote all those plays that we had to study in school. That guy. Yeah. Though William Shakespeare is never like mentioned in his name, like he's always known as the son or the father or the guy. I don't know, he's known as the guy. But he's never mentioned, and this is done purposely because the whole point of this book is to shine the spotlight on the other people in his life and not be about him, which I thought was really smart. So essentially we get to see 2 timelines. One is of the past when Agnes and William kind of like come together and their sort of story, and the next is of this timeline where Hamnet, who was their son, he dies. This is the only fact that we know. The only fact that we know is because like this was so long ago, right? Is that Hamnet was a son that they had, that passed when he was like 11 or 12 years old, and that's all the information that they sort of have. But like this is all like fictionalized, and Maggie O'Farrell just taken like creative liberties to like make up these stories about these people and see what could have been. But it's just so good. So essentially we are following this timeline of when Hamnet dies and what led up to it, and that's just like it's not a spoiler or anything, it's just what happens. And it's just so good because first of all, I fell in love with Agnes as a character. I just felt like she was so well like thought out, and I just fell in love with like all of them. I thought that it was so well put together, and like the point of grief and just all of this sort of like the way everyone sort of meshed together, and like it was just beautiful. I really, really enjoyed it. I thought that it was stunning writing, brilliant characterization, just really, really interesting and creative. Um, and would highly, highly recommend. Holy shit, so good. Like, stay tuned for that video for me to talk about this. But yeah, the next book that I read is Salvage the Bones by Jesmyn Ward. Now I have read another book by Jesmyn Ward which I really liked, which is Sing Unburied Sing, and this was my second book by her. And this book I was was a lot, to be honest. Like, essentially we are following this family who are very, very poor. Like, they're on the, like, the line of poverty. They are in it, and they live in, like, near New Orleans, and this is the time before Katrina. So they are basically counting down days to Hurricane Katrina and what happens, and we get to see various people's lives, and this family and how they sort of deal. And we're essentially following the young girl who is about 14 years old, and then her brothers, and like all the father who's a bit of a drunk, and like it's just, you get to see their lives and the things that they are going through. And I won't want to give you too much information, but I thought that this was really brutal. There were a lot of scenes of, for example, like a dog fight, or like just like a bit of like gore, with not like slasher gore, but like, you, I don't know, I was like, oh my god, I can't read this. But like, it was so well done. I feel like Jesmyn Ward is a brilliant writer, and the characters, you just rooted for them throughout, even though they weren't making like the best decisions. I just really like this book, though I don't know if, like, I feel like if the like dog fights and all of that didn't exist, I would have liked it maybe a little bit more. But I think the whole point of this was to show the brutality of everything that was happening in these people's lives. But yeah, I still gave this one a 4 star. I think I'm somewhere between a 4 and 4.5 stars. It wasn't a 5 star for me, but I'm glad that I read it. So next we have 4 books that I read for my Enemies to Lovers video. So I won't really go into deep detail about that because I'm hoping that you have already watched it. But the first one that I read was Battle Royal, which is basically about 2 pastry chefs who have like shops literally right opposite each other. Also, one was on this reality TV show where the other one chucked her out. So like the guy chucked the girl out as a contestant, like voted her out. So like they have this enemies sort of vibe, but now they're also the key like finalists of sorts for this cake for a royal wedding. So it's that and how they become lovers, and it's whatever. I liked this book, though I felt like there was just too much happening in this book. There were way too many plot points that was just confusing. And if like you chopped down some of the plot points and just kept it to the core romance and maybe like one more other plot point, side plot that was happening, that would have been fine. But I felt like there was just too many, so I was like, but I gave this one, I think, a 3.5 star overall. The next one that I read was Beach Read by Emily Henry, which I really, really loved. And this one is basically about this girl who goes to her dead father's house, beach house, essentially, that he's left her. She's sort of down on her luck and she has to write like this book. And she goes there and finds out that her neighbor is essentially like this guy who was like her enemy of sorts in her MFA thing, which was like a writing course. And they essentially become friends pretty fast again, and they decide to write each other's genres, because the girl basically writes romance and the guy writes like literary fiction. So they decide to like challenge each other and write each other's like other person's genre, and like then take each other on like these dates of sorts where they explain their process and all of that sort of stuff. I thought that this was really, really sweet. This was not an enemies to lovers at all, because they become friends in like the first 40 pages. Though you can see like in the beginning why they might have been like not liking each other or whatever. But I really like this one. I felt like the tension was great. I felt like the friendship and the way that it developed was great, and I feel like Emily Henry in general is a great writer. So yeah, I just really like this one. I gave this one 4.5 stars, and you can see more of my thoughts in that enemies to lovers video. But next one is Kulti or Kulti. I still don't know how to pronounce this one, by Mariana Zapata, and this was a 500 plus page book, but like so worth it because it's essentially about this girl who is a soccer star or a football star, and she plays for like the American like tournament, women's tournament, and in her club there's going to be a new like assistant coach, and that guy is this guy called Kulti, who is like this world famous footballer, and he is known to be like this really like selfish sort of dude, but he's like amazing. Like he's won like the best footballer of the year like 5 times and all of that sort of stuff. So she has really looked up to this guy, but he's also a bit of an asshole. So they have this like enemies, like, or maybe not enemies, but like not liking each other vibe in the beginning, and then how they become like friends, and then from there obviously they become lovers. But like I just really loved that progression. I just loved seeing that because you could see why like these people didn't like each other, you could see why they became friends, and then you could see why they became lovers. Like I just loved seeing that, and this is a slow burn, so like the coming togetherness happens only towards the very end, but I really enjoyed it. I thought that it was really well done. So yeah, so that's generally my thoughts about it. I liked it, and I would definitely want to read more from Mariana Zapata because I think she did a really good job with this one. Then I read the worst book that I have possibly read this year, and I feel so bad about it because I don't know, a lot of people really love this one, and that is The Spanish Love Deception, and I just don't get it because like this book is objectively bad to me. Like I don't think that it is badly written, okay, like I think that the writing is fine, but I just think that it's like this petri dish of just a lot of tropes that are put together, and like kudos to the author for being able to put all of these tropes together, but I just thought it was so childish and stupid. I did not like the characters at all. I didn't get why these characters were saying certain things. Like it just wasn't sexy under any circumstance. I was like, why is this happening? I just didn't like it. And I have gone into it in deep detail in the previous video that I did, like that video which was like the enemies to lovers ones. I don't want to shit on this as much, so I won't really like talk about it, but I gave this one a 1 star. It was just not it for me. I'm so sorry to the people who genuinely love this book, but good for you. It ain't for me though. So so yeah, those were the 14 books that I read in this month. I think I did an amazing job because like all of these books were just absolutely stunning, amazing. What a choice, what a world we live in. World sucks, by the way. Just BT dubs. So in the description please see all of the places that you can donate to for everything that's going on in Ukraine. Educate yourself please, and just help wherever you can. So yeah, that's the world that we live in. On that terrible note, I am gonna go now because I have some packing to do because I'm going places. It's going to be super fun. There's going to be a lot of really fun videos coming up in the next week or so. So I'm really excited about that. So stay tuned, subscribe, and I will see you in my next video, which is going to be amazing. Okay, bye.